Imagine I'm an artifact in the Vatican behind hundreds of miles of locked doors.
The smallest country on Earth houses the oldest continuously operating institution and guards priceless treasures beyond miles of locked doors. And the area sits upon what was once narrow circus where early Christians were martyred. That's not very funny. We're talking about the Vatican. There's a lot of theories and a lot of conspiracies that I've been seeing wash up, and I figured, you know, that little smoke coming out the thing, we had a new pope, you know, let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the craziest stuff that's been going on behind the closed doors of the Vatican. There's a lot of wild stuff, though. It's a beautiful building. Look at it. Wow. I don't know anything about the Vatican. Even if the Vatican harbored no secrets, it would still be an enigma wrapped in a cassock, aka a full-length garment of a single color worn by certain Christian clergy, members of church, choirs, acolytes, and others. What if I was the first YouTuber to wear a cassock for every video? What if I was the first YouTuber to ask publicly if God is supposed to feel like a distant concept or a living presence? What if the ornate walls of the Vatican hide something truly extraordinary? Today we're going to be asking the big questions. We're going to be talking about everything from JD Vance to aliens. Not them, but to aliens. We're going to be talking about aliens, like this guy. This little fella right here, the Holy Relic, praise be. Just kidding, we do not venerate false idols, all right? I shall begin us with the fact that conspiracies are not exactly a new thing in regard to the Vatican, but things definitely hit an inflection point when Miley Cyrus was on her first Wrecking Ball tour. In February of 2013, Pope Benedict XV1, I think that's 16, shocked the world by announcing his resignation, which was the first voluntary papal resignation in 700 years. Write that down! It was an unprecedented break with tradition that opened floodgates to new theories about what might be going on in the hallowed halls of the Vatican. And that could be surprising, could be not surprising. I'm relatively new to Vatican stuff. I've just recently been looking into it. I don't know a lot about the Vatican, so the 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 billion Catholics out there, go ahead and school me down below. But make sure you watch the ads first, all right? Let's be real, we've all got that one habit that we can't shake. It's the thing you reach for when times are tough, you're bored, your boss is being an asshole or whatever. My viewers, you know that I like to keep it 100. Emoji. So when I tell you that Fume changed the game for me, you know that I'm not just quite literally reading some script. It said that in the script. Fume is not a vape, it is not an e-cigarette, it has no nicotine or forever chemicals. It is a flavored air device that I genuinely love with a ton of different flavors. It's also a fidget toy, you can go. It's also a thing that feels valuable, it's heavy, it's weighted, it has a cool wooden feature to it. There's no charging, no batteries, and once again, it's just flavored air. It's not an addictive thing. It's a much better alternative to those things. Over 500,000 people have already made the switch with Fume. That's like 5 sold-out stadiums for Creed. They've got any flavor you can imagine, from crisp mint to cinnamon hearts to grapefruit and a bunch of other ones I love. Cinnamon is my new favorite. Right now, you can grab the Journey Pack with code Oompaville, and they'll throw in the free Fume topper. You can't spell Fume without W's in chat or whatever. Go to the description down below, go to tryfume.com/Oompaville or scan this QR code today. Thank you for supporting the channel, and thank you, Fume. Appreciate it. The Vatican spans 109 acres, houses 825 citizens behind walls guarded by men in wacky uniforms carrying halberds. It prints its own money, has its own license plates, and maintains diplomatic relations with 183 other countries despite being smaller than golf courses and like a lot of farms that are right beside me where I live in rural Texas. By the way, there's 195 countries. So having relationships with 183 is having relationships with all the ones that matter, all right? What countries do you not have relationships with, Vatican? Six Flags? Oh, Somalia? That's kind of fucked up. The Vatican archives stretch back 12 centuries, and its bank operates under unique sovereign relations, which doesn't seem like it should be legal. And beneath the floors of the Vatican, I mentioned Nero's circus, lies a pre-Christian necropolis. Ancient Rome. So many old secrets beneath their feet. It's important to note that there's a difference between the ancient Vatican area and the more modern Vatican City as we know it today, which it dates back to 1929 when the Lateran Treaty between the Holy See and Italy formally established it as a sovereign state. But like we said, 12 centuries. Real old. The ground beneath St. Peter's Basilica was once the site of Emperor Nero's circus, which was a chariot racing stadium. That's sick. And according to tradition, countless Christians were tortured and executed following the Great Fire of Rome in 64 CE, which is very bad and not sick. So all that being said, remember it, put it in your head, use it to paint a backdrop to the conspiracy theories that we are about to flourish in this video. All right, guys? Martyrdom, political patronage, artistic importance, and religious authority, and awesome outfits. Now, because I'm an idiot, the first section we're gonna be talking about is the Vatican shadow government and banking ties. Oh, God. This one's gonna get me hanging from a bridge with bricks in my pocket and $13,000 of various currencies in my wallet. That actually happened. We're going to talk about that. On June 18th, 1982, a London banker spotted something dangling beneath Blackfriars Bridge. It was Roberto Calvi, a chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, dubbed God's banker for his Vatican ties. This man hung from a noose with 5 bricks stuffed in his pockets and exactly $14,000 in 3 different currencies in his wallet. It was $14,000, not $13,000. I said $13,000. A moment ago. So how the f did a middle-aged bankers not known for their physical prowess, also middle-aged people not known for their physical prowess, hoist himself over a bridge railing with pockets full of bricks? Authorities initially ruled it as suicide, but in combination with the bizarre physical circumstances, there was bizarre symbolic circumstances. It was the Blackfriars Bridge. Their traditional attire matches that of Dominican priests, and more significantly, his death came precisely as Banco Ambrosiano collapsed with the Vatican Bank as its main shareholder and $1.3 billion missing through phantom loans to shell companies, most of which were controlled directly by the Vatican's Institute for Works of Religion. Ah, crap. Dang it! When forensic investigators finally examined the evidence a decade later, they discovered that Calvi's hands had no brick dust, despite supposedly handling bricks, and his necktie showed no signs of rope fibers that would have been present if he had actually hanged himself. The verdict eventually changed to murder, but the 5 folks that were eventually tried in Rome were all acquitted, despite multiple witnesses placing them with Calvi shortly before his death. So, you know, I guess take the L, Calvi. I don't know. That doesn't seem fair. It seems insanely corrupt. The case connects directly to Propaganda Due, aka P2, which is a Masonic lodge operating as a state within a state in Italy. On March 17, 1981, Italian police raided the villa of P2's worshipful master Licio Gelli, discovering what investigators would call a shadow government. Membership lists named 962 prominent Italians, including 43 parliamentarians, military generals, intelligence chiefs, and media moguls. And former P2 member Francesco Di Carlo later testified that Calvi was killed because he had taken money from the mafia and the Vatican that was for other purposes. Dude, of course. Of course. The bricks in the coat thing, I mean, that's mob shit anyways. What the fuck? At the center of the web was Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, a 6'4" American who ran the Vatican Bank from 1971 to 1989. America! And when questioned about financial improprieties, Marcinkus infamously declared, "You can't run the church on Hail Marys." I love that, dude. That's a good one. This statement became his epitaph in conspiracy circles, to be honest. That reminds me, join the Gump Club, because you can't run the church on Hail Marys. Go to gump.club to watch behind-the-scenes epic footage and uncensored videos. It's pretty cool. It also supports the channel. Go to gump.club. Italian prosecutors tried to indict him multiple times, but Marcinkus remained protected within the Vatican walls using his diplomatic immunity to avoid prosecution until his mysterious death in 2006. Mysteriously. He died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the back of the head. He didn't actually, that was a lie. We all know what happens when there's shadow governments. A bunch of powerful people get in charge, you have control over a lot of people. The Catholic Church basically and implicitly has control over a lot of people. If you just say like, hey, give me a bunch of money for the church, you know, so we can keep these artifacts and stuff, and we can read this note from Henry VIII. People will give you a lot of money if you ask. Catholic Church, kind of like the original YouTube. The original influencer group. In 2013, Pope Francis implemented reforms and closed 5,000 suspicious accounts and established a new level of financial oversight for the church. This next part in regard to the shadow government is very insane, so Try your best to keep up, because this was a lot of research and this was confusing to me, but also it makes sense in the end. The Vatican's financial network extends through the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, the SMOM, which is an entity granted sovereignty despite controlling no territory. They're called the Knights, and the Knights maintain diplomatic relations with 112 countries. They issue their own passports and operate diplomatic pouches that cannot be searched or sieged by any government. It is dramatically unusual. No other entity in the world possesses such privileges without controlling actual sovereign territory. So this is like the CIA within the CIA. Speaking of the CIA, former CIA operative E. Howard Hunt admitted in his memoir that the Knights of Malta provided perfect cover for intelligence operations. For example, the Knights' diplomatic status was recognized even by Iron Curtain countries during the Cold War, and it made them ideal for unofficial couriers. What Hunt didn't mention in his memoir was the order's direct Vatican supervision through the Cardinal Patron, currently Cardinal Silvano Maria Tomasi, who reports directly to the Pope, the new Pope. And according to investigative journalist David Yallop, the Knights function as the Vatican's intelligence arm with particular focus on financial operations too sensitive for official channels, and their diplomatic immunity allows them to move people, documents, and assets across borders without scrutiny, which creates what intelligence professionals call perfect cutouts for deniable operations. These guys are elite. The Knights of Malta are elite as f. I had no idea what they were. I've never even heard of them before researching for this video. Even more central to Vatican power is the Society of Jesus, aka the Jesuits. You've probably heard of them. Their superior general is known as the Black Pope due to his black clerical attire and alleged shadow authority. The Darth Pope. Before becoming Pope Francis, George Bergoglio, our last pope, was a Jesuit, the first ever to ascend to the papacy in the order's 450-year history. This fact raised alarm among Vatican observers who understood the significance of merging these previously separate power centers. The Jesuits themselves, their structure mimics intelligence agency structure. They're highly compartmentalized, with members swearing extraordinary oaths of obedience to the cause. Charles Chenoquai, once a Catholic priest, published the Jesuits' extreme oath of induction, which includes the pledge, "I will secretly use the poison cup, the strangulation cord, and the steel poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of honor, rank, dignity, or authority." Now, Catholic authorities do dismiss this oath as a fabrication, that's important to note, but the Jesuits' documented history of political involvement, I would say, speaks for itself. Through their global network of 189 universities and thousands of schools in 112 countries, they shape political and economic thought worldwide. Some graduates of the Jesuits include both Bill Clinton and Fidel Castro, two sides of the same coin, I guess. World Bank presidents are also included in there, and revolutionary leaders. So we have examples of basically every political perspective sharing Jesuit formation. For a long time, and until the early 20th century, the Vatican did have a formal intelligence service called the Entity, or Sodalidium Pianum. The Entity, by the way, crazy name for an intelligence service. It was officially disbanded in 1921, but intelligence experts contend that it didn't vanish, and it just went underground and became even more secretive. Because why would you disband that? I mean, let's be real, especially with all this other information we've got. So yeah, consider the implications. They are absolutely staggering. A sovereign entity with no meaningful territory controls a banking system outside international oversight and operates a diplomatic corps with global reach, and maintains a sovereign military order with diplomatic immunity, and commands a religious order with educational institutions worldwide. Plus, they answer to virtually no outside authority. Now, that's pretty crazy, guys. I've got to say, that's pretty crazy. So a lot of the conspiracies, they seem more valid when you look at it from that perspective, in my opinion. And no offense, by the way, Catholicism, I know a bunch of Catholics that are really cool people. We're all Christians at the end of the day. But the institution, the nation, right? That's where the problem lies, generally, in this kind of thing. For example, being an American is really cool. I love America. I love the idea of America. I love the Constitution. I love our founding fathers. I love aspects of the history of this country. I love being an American, and I would never resign from that. But it's very important to, acknowledge that some people are really evil. And just because they're a part of something you really like a lot doesn't mean that they're not evil. I don't know. What do I know? Nothing. This next section is about the secret archives of the Vatican, which is, the fact that they have secret archives is kind of a misnomer, honestly. I was gonna say it's crazy, but it's actually not even really that wild, but we'll get into it. It is very wild. I'm just kidding. I'm not very good at making people watch my videos for very long. I'm sorry. On October 22nd, 2019, Pope Francis announced the Vatican's secret archives would henceforth be known as the Vatican Apostolic Archives. What was the reason? The Latin word secretum originally meant private or personal. These were supposed to be the Pope's personal archives, but in modern languages, the word secret had taken on connotations of hidden or concealed information, something bad. Secret, it's a secret, I have to know your secret. They changed the name to reduce misunderstanding, but like Elon Musk changing the name of Twitter to X, nobody gives a f. Nobody's using the name X yet. Well, some bootlickers are. But let's be real, bootlickers can suck it. There is a lot of unabated conspiracy theories in regard to what lurks within the Vatican's secret archives. A lot. The archives contain approximately 53 miles of shelving in climate-controlled bunkers, housing documents spanning 12 centuries. Among the confirmed treasures are Henry VIII's letter requesting annulment from Catherine of Aragon in 1530, complete with the signatures of 85 English noblemen, Galileo's trial documents from 1633, and letters from Michelangelo complaining about payment for the Sistine Chapel. You know, because he's a turtle. Just kidding, he was a very talented, he designed all this shit. He made this thing, this famous thing with the fingers touching it. He's a famous sculptor, artist, just all-around good guy. Most of the archives contain administrative documents, appointments, correspondence, and financial records. Boring nonsense shit. There is theories that there are some more exotic contents. There is a claim, which I love, of this thing called the Chronovvisor, which exists in the Vatican. It is a device allegedly developed in the 1950s by Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk with advanced musical training and expertise in quantum physics, because that makes sense. Guy's like a Dr. Parkenstein, but in the 50s and for the Catholic Church. The machine, the Chronovvisor, resembles a television with a series of cathode ray tubes, antennas, and dials. It purportedly allows viewers to witness any event in human history by tuning into residual electromagnetic radiation that all events leave behind, essentially capturing light and sound waves that continue to resonate throughout time. So it's like this television set. It's like if they came up with a TV. Some guy first saw a TV and he's like, you know what? You could probably not only tune into channels, but also to events of time. Pretty much. Father Ernetti claimed an extraordinary team collaborated on this project, the Chronovvisor. That's my impression of the Chronovvisor. Let me watch the cavemen. Wow, they're so dumb. This father claimed that an extraordinary team collaborated on the project. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi, Fermi paradox, and rocket scientist and Nazi, Wernher von Braun. Those two fellers among other scientists that wish to remain anonymous. I wonder if Enrico Fermi and Wernher von Braun know they worked on this. According to Ernetti, the team successfully witnessed numerous historical events, including that time I pitched a no-hitter in Little League. Just kidding. They watched Christ's crucifixion, allegedly, in Napoleon's court, and they witnessed a lost tragedy by Roman writer Quintus Ennius from 169 BCE. Very specific. Thank you, Father Ernetti. Now, this seems so insane and so absurd, but the Chronovvisor story gains some significance and credibility because Ernetti is not just a moth priest. He's not just an ordinary monk. He taught quantum physics at the University of Venice and served as an exorcist and was a world-renowned authority on archaic music. So the guy had a bit of a pedigree, okay? The first public story of the Chronovvisor broke in an Italian newspaper in 1972 when Ernetti produced what he claimed was a photograph of Christ on the cross and text of the Los Thyestes tragedy, the one we mentioned earlier. All evidence directly captured from the Chronovvisor. I'm starting to believe this now. Just kidding, that's Mid-Journey. That's not actually a picture of the Chronovvisor. I can't really tell what's real and what's not real anymore because of AI and stuff. But if you research it, there's a lot of images that are sort of unsettling and strange. Like this, for example, I think this is supposed to be Jesus. I'm not sure. This is the Italian news story revealing the Chronovvisor with Ernetti and a picture of Christ. This is apparently a picture of Jesus Christ. It's in black and white, and it's old. A lot of things that are in black and white and old are true. Now, we've established that the Vatican does have a history of responding to things and ridiculous claims. So what did the Vatican say to this? In a fairly compelling manner, the Vatican did not dismiss the claims outright, nor did they deny denial. They just remained silent. They didn't say anything. But in a deathbed confession in 1994, Ernetti reportedly admitted the photograph was fake, but maintained the machine's existence. Come on, man. Why would you lie and then admit that on your deathbed? Because you're trying to get into heaven, right? Oh, yeah, that's a bad one, all right? That'd be a really bad one. You'd be like TMZ up there. But we also have to say, for the sake of the conspiracy theorists out there, that this partial confession came after Ernetti was hospitalized in a Vatican-controlled facility, which could potentially suggest coercion, all right? And he did recant the photo, but not the ancient text that he recovered, or whatever the Vatican has never officially denied the Chronovisor's existence, and that makes it one of the most interesting, curious, compelling things in regard to all of them. You could just say, no, it's not real. Of course it's not real. TV, you can turn it into electromagnetic, what the Come on, make me a Vatican spokesperson. People already think I'm like a CIA asset or a Vatican spokesperson. They already think that I'm a, what is it called? A psyop? Or a plant. I want all this stuff to be real. I literally do. You have no idea. Now, a more grounded theory, but also absolutely wild, suggests the archives contain evidence that Jesus married Mary Magdalene and had children, which is a claim that was popularized by Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, and that claim originated in a book from 1982 called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. According to this theory, Jesus had kids with Mary, and those kids fled to France and integrated with the ruling class there. Now, that information is important and relevant because in 2001, Barbara Frail, a paleographer, found the Chinon parchment. I don't know if that's how you say it. The Chinon parchment? I don't know. It was a long-lost document showing Pope Clement V secretly absolving the Knights Templar of heresy charges in 1308, which is crazy because if you're the Pope and you're like the main guy just below the other people who are more spiritual and don't exist physically, and you're absolving the Knights Templar in 1308, who are the keepers of this secret that invalidate everything you allegedly stand for, that's kind of weird. And even absolving the Knights Templar in general, I mean, they deny Christ. That's like one of the reasons that they were called heretics in the first place. Plus inappropriate carnal relations and obscene kissing of the penis. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. A little more grounded than the Chronovisor, to be honest. A lot of people also don't know that you can just request information, of course, if you're a qualified scholar, from the secret archives, the apostolic archives. 20,000 requests are granted annually, and you can just kind of get stuff. So it's pretty cool. I've been big into aliens lately, and as you can tell, I have a lot of alien trinkets on my desk. Big trinket guy. Okay, big trinket guy, couple of trinkets here and there. Of all the Vatican secrets, none are quite as captivating to my imagination, quite like the alleged knowledge of extraterrestrial beings and possible communication with. There's an evidence trail, all right, guys? There's a real-life evidence trail. There is. There is! Stop saying there's not! You see, the Vatican maintains the world's oldest astronomical research institution and owns one of the world's largest meteorite collections, which is cool. And they have made a series of statements about alien life that are curiously specific, I would say, for an organization with no confirmed contact and just, a religious organization. It's kind of odd that they're talking about aliens so much. In 2008, the Vatican's chief astronomer, Jose Gabriel Funes, published an article with a provocative title, "The Extraterrestrial is My Brother." This guy wrote in this official newspaper that extraterrestrials might be free from original sin, which I feel like might be blasphemous, okay? He also wrote that extraterrestrials are part of God's original creation and cannot be excluded from tithings, I think. What he meant. 2 years after this, Brother Guy Consolmagno, curator of the Vatican's extensive meteorite collection and future director of the Vatican Observatory, told The Guardian that he would baptize an alien if it asked, and then added, "Any entity, no matter how many tentacles it has a soul." You ain't been watching the same shit I've been watching, been coming out of Japan. That is not true. Those things are soulless. Also, let's halt for a second. Can I become the curator of the Vatican's meteorite collection? Imagine being that guy. That is like the coolest job title I've ever seen or heard in my life. What do? You got a pretty cool suit on. Your suit's pretty cool already. Well, actually, I'm the curator of the meteorite collection at the Vatican. So it seems odd that such a legitimate and long-standing institution, a Catholic religious institution, would give credence to such hypothetical things like aliens. Seems bizarre. Some people theorize that these statements serve to gradually acclimate the public to a reality that the Vatican has known about for a long, long time. For example, the crystal skull deep within the Vatican's basement. I've seen it. I've seen it in my visions. I've been remote viewing down there. Now let us get to the case of Monsignor Corrado Balducci. It provides even more compelling evidence in regard to what I'm talking about. As an official demonologist for the Vatican and a member of the Roman Curia, Balducci wasn't just a fringe figure. From 1995 to 2000, he made a series of unprecedented television appearances on Italian networks, stating categorically that extraterrestrial contact was real and not demonic. On Domenica Inn, which is Italy's highest-rated Sunday program, he declared, "We must begin to prepare ourselves for the possibility of this encounter! They are not demonic! They are not due to psychological impairment! They are not a case of entity attachment! But these encounters deserve to be studied carefully!" Here's our source, by the way, if you want to check out this website. Look at this. Pretty good-looking website, isn't it? I really like using websites like this as sources. Lest we forget this from UFO Digest. Vatican official declares extraterrestrial contact is real, all caps. So yeah, take it or leave it, basically. Vatican insiders have also whispered that Balducci was part of a controlled disclosure program that was initiated after a secret meeting between Pope John the 23rd and representatives of an extraterrestrial civilization in 1961 at Castel Gandolfo. Now, these Vatican insiders that whispered this, I heard them. Just kidding. There is no official documentation of these meetings that exist in public records. It is Vatican employees that have anonymously claimed that a specific section of the papal summer residence remains off limits to all but the highest ranking church officials, so they can do that thing that they did in Men in Black where he reaches out and he touches the alien and they shake hands. And then Will Smith comes in and he's got new blood and he's got all this new energy and he uproots the Men in Black and reorients them towards the future. He makes them cool. He makes them cool. The Vatican, Balducci, that's Will Smith. These are real theories, by the way. This is mind-boggling. You've probably heard of David Grush if you're into the alien stuff, and he made an even more provocative testimony. It was provided by him. He's a former U.S. intelligence official. Grush testified in 2023 to Congress under oath and claimed that in 1933, during Mussolini's regime, a non-human craft crashed near Magenta, Italy, which is here on a map. Right there. It's right there. So Magenta's up here, and then the Vatican City's just outside of Rome, down here, all right? And Bosnia and Herzegovina is over here, and Slovenia is here, and Serbia is here, and Montenegro is here, and Dubrovnik is here. Shout out to all my homies in Dubrovnik. Also, according to Grush, Pope Pius XII personally negotiated the transfer of recovered materials to America's Office of Strategic Services, which is the precursor to the CIA, the OSS. This is pre-end of World War II. And that established a secret relationship between Vatican intelligence and the American counterparts in regard to extraterrestrial matters that all continues into this day. So the Vatican is working with the United States of America on ET stuff, you know? Sounds good. Now, if you're wondering what the Vatican said in retort to Grush, I don't know how to say his name, Grusk's claims, Vatican Archives Secretary Marco Grilli publicly denied knowledge of this Mussolini-era incident. But we have to denote that Grilli specifically denied knowledge of where Grush got this information from, not that the information itself was fake. Yes! Yes! That's like White House shit. That's White House shit right there, dude. That means it's real. It's a matter of semantics. Yeah, well, you didn't say it's not real. You just said, I don't know where he heard that from. It's bullshit. I don't think he said it's bullshit, but it would have been funny if he did it. One thing that's kind of cool as well is this type of careful denial appears frequently not only for the White House, but also in Vatican statements in regard to extraterrestrial matters. press like. The Vatican also has astronomical facilities for some reason, and the sheer fact that also raises a couple eyebrows in my opinion. I write my professional Vatican Pope opinion. Pope. The Vatican has the VATT, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. Terrible name. Besides it just being weird that they have an astronomical facility, one of them that they have, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, VAT, sits perched atop Mount Graham in Arizona, which was a location that was sacred to the Apache people who fought the construction of the VAT for years through litigation. They didn't want them to build it there, but they really wanted to build it there. That location was so vital that the Vatican lobbied Congress to pass the 1988 Arizona-Idaho Conservation Act, which specifically exempted the project from environmental and cultural protection laws that would have applied to any other organization. What the f? The rules do not apply to us. This culture does not matter. We're building a big telescope. It's gonna be so big and we're gonna look really far with it. We're gonna look at aliens. We're gonna look at what the f they're doing over there in Japan with all those tentacles. There's also a great deal of compartmentalization with the facility. Engineers who worked on the VAT facility reported unusual security protocols, including restricted areas within the observatory that even senior astronomers cannot access. So only the Pope can go in there, I guess. I have no idea. You probably heard of this next part, but this controversy went through a bit of an intensification period when the nearby University of Arizona Large Binocular Telescope installed an infrared instrument with the bizarre acronym Lucifer. A large binocular telescope near infrared spectroscopic utility with camera and integral field unit for extragalactic research. We have to be fair. This was not officially a part of the Vatican telescope, and after public outcry, it was renamed to Lucy. It is a long acronym, Lucifer. Whatever I just read off. But obviously, insiders whispered that the Vatican partially funded its development through third-party foundations, so, you know. And I wouldn't be fucking surprised. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if anything was true. You could tell me that Sofia in Bulgaria isn't even a real city, and I'd be like, my Balkan brothers have been lying to me this entire time? Of course they have. They're Balkan. Oh, so am I! Gun show! Imagine I just snapped my bicep while recording a Pope conspiracy video. Beyond just astronomy and the interest of aliens relegated to looking at them, spying on them from really far away, the Pontifical Academy of Sciences hosted an unprecedented conference on astrobiology, which brought together scientists from NASA, the European Space Agency, and other prominent universities, other places where there's smart people. But leaked documents suggest participants discussed not just theoretical and hypothetical scenarios, but specific protocols for confirming and announcing the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence, which, you know, maybe they just watched Independence Day, like me. Maybe they just watched Signs, like me as well. I've been really into aliens, hoping they'll come get me. A peculiar statement by Jesuit astronomer Father Jose Funes following the conference was peculiar. It was peculiar, all right? When he was asked if the church was preparing for disclosure of alien contact, he responded by saying, yes. He said, the discovery of intelligent life does not mean there's another Jesus somewhere in the universe. Which, I'm gonna be real, Jesuit astronomer, that's a weird thing to say to someone who's like, hey man, is there aliens around? And you're just like, there's no other Jesuses around. All right? Not anywhere else in the universe. So that concludes the extraterrestrial part of these papal conspiracies. Now, I've got to say, this is potentially the most viral Vatican conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy dating just literally a couple weeks ago. It erupted after Pope Francis died one day after meeting with Vice President J.D. Vance at the Vatican. You know, he sees the memes. He sees the memes of people making fun of him. You know he's seen these memes, and you know this has just not been good for his mental health. Attributing the Pope's death to your visit, and then the memes of him being a Daedra. Portraying him as death, as the judge in Blood Meridian. Obviously not real at all, but it's funny. People are suggesting that he is literally the Antichrist. Vatican photographs documented the April 20th encounter, 2025, meeting at Casa Santa Marta. The Vatican press office described the meeting between JD and the Pope as brief, and it was an opportunity to exchange Easter greetings. Pope Francis died the next day. During the first day, he appeared visibly ill during the meeting. These circumstances have created the ultimate meme, just disrespectful thing, all right? It's I've got to say, some of it's very funny, but it's also very disrespectful. I'm not a Catholic, just so you guys know. But I have respect for every single religion, except for, what's one that I can say I don't have any respect for? Shrews. Let's just say shrews. I don't have any respect for shrews. I like them. They're interesting creatures, but their religions never really appealed to me, so. Pope Francis had initially declined meeting with Vance during his visit to Rome, but then suddenly decided to agree to a brief meeting, which is bizarre. The theory then spread because, he's like, I don't want to meet with you, and then he meets with you, and then he dies the next day. It's dark humor, liberals. The J.D. Vance conspiracy is very interesting because it connects to a long American history of anti-Catholic sentiment. I'm not a Catholic. I have respect for Catholics. I know a lot of them that are extremely cool people. Do I think some of the stuff is really bizarre? Yeah, of course. Do I think some of the stuff is really bizarre in every single religion? Of course. All right, brother? If you don't grow up with it, if you're not just like fed into, if you're learning it as an adult, there's a lot of bizarreness that comes with it, just across the board. But there is an American anti-Catholic sentiment that I've experienced. A lot of people were burned by the church as children, and then they're just like vehemently against it as they grow up. A fellow by the name of Arthur M. Schlesinger Sr. once described anti-Catholicism in America as the deepest bias in the history of the American people, which I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that one, but another historian by the name of John Higham called it the most luxuriant, tenacious tradition of paranoid agitation in American history, which is the anti-Catholic movement. There was actually an anti-Catholic movement called the Know Nothing movement of the 1850s that was anti-Catholic, and opponents of Al Smith in 1928 or of JFK in 1960, they claimed that either one of these men would take orders from the Pope if elected president, which is just not true. That didn't happen. The point is that these suspicions of Catholicism have deep roots in American culture. And there is a nice level of irony that I really enjoy from the Vance conspiracy and has been embraced by both political extremes for entirely different reasons. Progressive critics share it to highlight the perceived hypocrisy in Vance's religious positioning, because he got called out by the Pope by claiming things and then the Pope denies and then he dies. Oh! What we for sure know about it is that there is a complex relationship that the public have with the Catholic Church, especially J.D. Vance and his relationship with the Catholic Church. Yeah. I would say so. I like making jokes and having good fun, but at the end of the day, I do have respect for people's beliefs in religion, obviously. There are some Vatican conspiracy theories that transcend beyond what even makes sense, and they enter the realm of the truly bizarre. We've spoken about a lot of them, but one of them isn't even a conspiracy theory at all. It's not a theory, it is documented history. In January 897, Pope Stephen VI ordered the corpse of his predecessor, Pope Formus, to be exhumed 9 months after burial. The decomposing body was dressed in papal vestments, propped up on a throne in the Lateran Palace, and put on trial for perjury and violating canon law. Then a deacon answered on the dead pope's behalf as Stephen VI railed against the corpse. Not physically, like railed him or whatever, but, he harangued him. The event, called the Cadaver Synod, ended with Formosus convicted, and the 3 fingers he had used for blessings were cut off and his papal vestments stripped, and his naked remains were thrown into the Tiber River. Then, let's talk about something crazy though. The reptilian pope theory. It is laughable at first glance, I have to admit, but it has attracted surprising attention. The theories were popularized by British researcher David Icke. You guys have probably heard of him. I've talked about him on the channel before. This is the claim that world leaders, including popes, are actually reptilian extraterrestrials capable of changing form, and according to Icke's sources, these beings originated from the Alpha Draconis star system and have infiltrated Earth's power structures for thousands of years. Hold on a second. What? What's the evidence? How about this? Believers of the Pope is a reptile conspiracy point to specific video footage from Pope Benedict, a 2012 Christmas address where his eyes appear to change to vertical slits for a split second. Then another clip from 2010 allegedly shows unusual skin patterns forming on his hands under certain lighting. Most people would say that this is a compression artifact, a result of, video encoding, but believers seek confirmation. What is a little bit intriguing is how these theories can connect to actual Vatican iconography. The Vatican Museum houses multiple sculptures and paintings featuring serpent imagery dating back centuries. The Serpent Court in the Vatican Museum features a massive pine cone statue, the Pina, which is flanked by serpents and imagery of them. Some people connect this imagery to the pineal gland and the reptilian brain complex, and then just like the magic of whatever, I don't know. The Pope's Audience Hall, designed by architect Pier Luigi Nervi, and at 1971 has an also distinctively serpentine appearance when observed from above. It looks like a snake's head and snakes and stuff. I don't know, dude. Snakes. I mean, I love snakes. I actually like snakes. I have one as a hat band, pretty cool. And most elaborately is the Project Bluebeam conspiracy, which people have been asking me to talk about for a very long time. I'll probably do a video on this at some point just in the future, a full video. But this theory, conspiracy, in regard to this, places the Vatican at the center of a plan to implement a new world order. According to a Canadian journalist by the name of Serge Monast, who died mysteriously in 1996 after publishing his findings, this plan has 4 stages: engineered archaeological discoveries undermining religious beliefs, then a space show using advanced holographic technology to stimulate the second coming or alien arrival, then direct communication through low-frequency waves to make people believe they're receiving messages from God or aliens, something beyond Earth, and finally creating a supernatural event to convince people that the rapture is imminent. Believers cite the Vatican's Advanced Technology Telescope and the Vatican's interest in extraterrestrial life as preparation for their role in this deception, and then they point to unusual sky phenomena documented worldwide as test runs of this holographic technology. For example, all the orbs and shit in New Jersey. I mean, it's really wild. And when Pope Francis became the first pope to ever address Congress, he did this in 2015, conspiracy theorists and blue beam proponents, blue beamers is what I call them, they saw this as evidence of the Vatican's central role in the coming new world government, which seems like things haven't really sped up that much. I was kind of expecting more, but I don't know. It's fun to believe, though. And yeah, there's a bunch of tunnels as well beneath the Vatican, which is epic and really cool. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, press the like button down below, join the Gump Club for behind-the-scenes footage, and always go to sour.gg to buy some candy. This is our new Sour Boy strip flavor of the month. It's called Mystery Concoction. We don't actually know what's in it. That's a lie. We do, of course, legally, but we don't. You know, we don't really care what's in it. It's a licorice-style candy that is in the form of a sour strip. They're amazing. They're really good. They have less sugar than our competitors. It's not a low-sugar variant. It is still a full-sugar candy, but the way that we make it, it is just more old school. It doesn't have as much sugar. It honestly doesn't last as long. The shelf life isn't as long as regular candy, but it is much higher quality and better, and it's made by real people in a small town in Texas, so it's pretty cool. I'm extremely proud of it and very grateful to all the people who buy it and support the channel. So yeah, go buy some of our new flavors at sour.gg. Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate you, and hopefully you enjoy this video.
Thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video.